evening, everybody. It's Rachel Whittaker here from Indie Beauty Delivers. I hope you're okay. All okay. Thank you so much for bearing with us there for a second. It's always the same when you have a couple of technical difficulties. We're going to blame it on the heat. So you are tuning in tonight for another edition of Indie Beauty Rocks TV. And as I said, my name's Rachel Whittaker, and I'm the founder of Indie Beauty Delivers, and I have got a real treat for you tonight. So it's not long since we had the last episode of Indie Beauty Rocks TV, is it actually? It was only on Thursday, but I've got special guests for you tonight, which is why we've scheduled it for a Monday. Today we're all talking all about Amazon, that's what I'm just checking. Sorry, I'm trying to work on everything, girls. So I'm just trying to make sure that I can see that we're live. Yes, we are live. Good, I can see it. So yeah, today we're talking Amazon, and I know there's going to be probably a whole load of you coming on. So I can see there's 5 of you already, which is awesome. I know there's going to be more because we've been delayed a little bit, which is brilliant. So we're in this situation at the moment where I get asked a lot about Amazon. We know that the retail landscape is changing massively for beauty brands. We've heard all the news about Debenhams, all the news about Marks and Spencer's, all the news about House of Fraser. So it seems that for beauty brands, we've got to have a much more multi-channel or omni-channel, I think is the lingo, approach. And Amazon could be one of those things that could fit into that strategy for you. And I get asked loads of questions about Amazon all the time. And the same old questions come up. And I am no expert on it. I can get your products to Amazon, but I'm not an expert on actually how the platform works and how it can benefit you. But as you know, what I do is go out and find experts. So I would like to introduce you with no further ado to the amazing team for Fuel for Amazon. They're squishing in there. There's 2 of them. Look, we've got Abby giving us a wave. Hi. And we've got Gillian giving us a wave. And these guys are, yay, these guys are total experts on Amazon and work with independent brands to help them really max out that platform. I am not going to talk anymore other than to say that you are live. So anybody who's joining in, we're actually doing this through Be Live, which means I can't see your names when you post questions, unfortunately. I do have us here at the moment, and I am trying to watch it at the same time on my phone. But if you want to post a question, I can see your questions, but I can't see who it is. So please pop your name in so I can see you. Also, it would be awesome if we can have feedback. We love a little bit of love hearts and thumbs up, just to know that we're coming across and you can hear us and understand what we're saying. So give us some feedback as and when you need to. Let me just make sure. Oh, and if you've got any questions, ask questions, put them in there, and I will get round to asking these amazing ladies. What we're going to work through is a couple of questions that all of you asked, because I asked you to come in first of all and give me those questions. So we're going to work through those. Then we're going to find out what these wonderful ladies do, which can help you max out the Amazon channel. And then we're going to have some questions. So I am going to move on. I can see we're up to 11 at the moment, so there'll be more coming in. Please say hello and pop your names in so I can see who you are. Is Mary London? You're in there. Yes, thank you. Lovely to see you. I can see there's some more people saying hello, but you've not left me your names at the moment. So you're doing really, really well there. Okay, Lucia's in, Lucia Beth's in, Steph's in, Lise Anderson's in, Zane's in. Brilliant. That's great. Thank you, girls. So the first question that I would love you to help us out with is the big question, in that I think it's quite confusing for brands when they go to work with Amazon. I think there are a number of different ways, and I don't necessarily think it's clear what they are. So would you be able to explain that to us?
Yes, certainly. There's 2 main ways you can work with Amazon. The first is a sort of first-party supplier that's working in a vendor relationship with Amazon. So that's when Amazon will invoice you for goods, and then you send the goods to a warehouse that's somewhere in the UK, for example, and then from there they will fulfill orders that they sell through their Amazon retail platform. So it's when you're buying on Amazon and you can see that it's dispatched and sold by Amazon, that's Amazon buying a brand product and then selling direct to the consumer. So that's one way of working. It's called the vendor relationship, but generally speaking, you have to be invited by Amazon to be in that relationship with them, clearly because you've got something that's, you know, very well known probably. So that's how you can establish that particular relationship with Amazon. The second, which is what we focus on more helping brands with, is in the seller relationship with Amazon. So that's as a third party supplier, as it were. And that is when you sell on Amazon via their platform, but you actually sell and fulfill the order direct to the customer. So you know who your customer is and you know where they live. And so that's the second relationship that you can have. That relationship is actually becoming more empowered, as we can say, by Amazon, in that there's a great many more things you can do now selling in that way than you could do before. So the seller relationship is what we often focus on more for brands, but if you're already in a vendor relationship with Amazon, then that's something that we can help with too.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. So, because I think when we were talking in the week that we'd seen quite a lot of comments coming up in the feed where people had been talking about the vendor relationship, and that's the one that can be a bit more tricky. Is that right? Sorry, just to make sure.
In the sense that Amazon's your customer, so Amazon's invoicing you for the goods, so you dispatch to their warehouses and then they sell it on to the customer. So you don't know who your customer is. It can be tricky because you can't always control every facet of that. But certainly with the seller aspect, you have a bit more control because you know who your customer is.
Yeah. Okay, that makes perfect sense. So there are two different ways to do it, vendor and seller is perhaps the better way because you can keep more control as a brand.
Yeah.
And you can control the price.
Go on, sorry, Gillian.
And you can, to a greater degree, you can more likely to control the price with the second option. Because
Brilliant.
the first option is about Amazon deciding what price they're going to sell your goods at.
Yes. And that's really, really relevant because so there were a couple of questions that kept coming up. And I think you probably come across them a lot because I think there is this kind of, without being rude about Amazon, there is a little bit of a stigma around whether it's the right platform to be on. And there's a lot of people who worry slightly about it. One of the things is that they don't have control of their brand. Another one is around the pricing issue. So we know that being a seller helps us to gain more control as opposed to being a vendor. So let's have a look at if you went down that seller route, how can you protect your reputation as a brand on Amazon?
Well, first and foremost, if you have an active registered trademark, which I know not everybody will have in the beginning when they're starting out, but certainly once you become more established, it's very important to get the trademark in place. With that, you can then apply to the Amazon's brand registry, and then that allows you to do a fair amount of safeguarding around products and how they're sold on the platform and how they are presented in relation to the ASIN, which is the product page that's created in relation to specific SKUs, and then that gives you a sort of greater degree of sort of control. Most importantly, of course, because of fake and counterfeit goods as well. So it allows you to quickly demonstrate to Amazon if you feel that there are products out there on their platform which you couldn't guarantee authenticity. You can say, this isn't necessarily my product. Can you get that delisted? When products are delisted from a seller's account, it can cause, it is fairly effective. And so that's a great way of sort of obviously safeguarding your brand to a degree.
Oh, that's brilliant. And I guess what you were saying then about being a seller means that you can put your brand out on Amazon your way. You're in control of.
And indeed, which is what we do in our service. It's really about optimizing each product page for every product that you would like to have on the platform. So that's broken down into the services that we provide. The main component being establishing great keywords around the products that you want to sell. That helps to build the above the line content, which is around your product imagery, the product title, and the 5 bullet points that will describe the various, what, how, why, where, and when questions you're going to, use to describe that product. And then further down each product page, you can then establish your brand story with other imagery, telling the story about the brand, how it came to be, which is really important for, new niche brands that have got like an authentic voice to give. And you can do that with what's known as the enhanced brand content, which is what we also help with. So as you're scrolling down a product page to get to the very popular and the most read bit, which is often the reviews and the question and answer section, you can tell your story through the enhanced brand content area. So that all helps to build your brand, what you want to say about it and why. And it's very important to be able to do that, because the most important thing is if other people get hold of your product and establish it on the platform before you as the brand owner do, that's where problems can become tricky. They can be sorted out to a fair degree, but you can have products obviously up there. They're not saying your story in the best way possible. They're not showcasing your product in the best way possible. And that's all attributed to the product page, which is attributed to the ASIN of that product. And that's something that as a brand, irrespective of whether or not you see Amazon as a sort of the destination that you want to be on initially, it is something that you really need to bear in mind, that you sort of own those pages from the outset, so that you can set the tone, set the story, and ultimately as a seller you can obviously reap the rewards through the sales and know who your consumers are and where they are around the country, which helps build a bigger picture of who you're engaging with.
Yeah, no, that sounds, I'm suddenly realizing I'm disappearing into darkness here. Sorry, guys. I've had to I'm trying to keep cool, but you're in such a lovely, wonderfully lit room and I'm in this dark place. So apologies. And they're not here to see me anyway. So it sounds like you can really keep control. So the concerns that people have about not being able to control their image on there, you totally can. It can be your picture, your text, your vibe, everything can be you.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people find Amazon very frustrating and very difficult to work with. Okay, and there's all kinds of obstacles for large organizations, small organizations. It doesn't really matter. Most people find Amazon almost impossible to work with, and it can bring them to their knees. But when you actually go through the various different stages and you work out what you can do to make your brand experience come to life, as Abby said, in a very authentic way, then it really is a transformational experience. And even if you don't necessarily view Amazon as a destination selling place, it is the fastest growing retailer. There's endless stats that demonstrate why people check out information on Amazon first and foremost. The whole convenience, the Prime, everything about it makes it an impossible to ignore retailer. So from a brand point of view, it is as well to take control of your own brand agenda as opposed to leaving other people to take control of that agenda for you.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think Amazon is becoming even more important to indie beauty potentially, because we saw at Indie Beauty Expo in Dallas that Amazon were launching this indie beauty shop, which sits within their platform. It's launched now in the US, and we know that where the US goes, the UK follows. So we're kind of all expecting that to come over here. They obviously have a bit of a relationship with the Indie Beauty Expo. So whether they come over and launch the Amazon shop around the time that the expo in London happens in October, I don't know. But at some point, I expect it to be something that's available over here. So their perception of indie beauty is changing, and they're quite pioneering and innovative when it comes to that, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very much so. So the recent initiative is that the brands themselves has to be at least 50% owned by an independent owner, and not necessarily stocked through major retailers in the US. So there's various reasons, obviously, why Amazon are going to be doing that. But I think it's got great potential. Hopefully it will come to the UK too, because it just helps to give a greater awareness to niche beauty brands that otherwise might find it challenging, certainly to find it, homes on the high street, for example. But clearly there's obviously, brilliant other e-commerce players out there as well. But if you're on those platforms, it makes sense to be on the Amazon one too, because Amazon's there to cater for the customer. It's about catering to your every whim. It's why they, obviously develop so much in their technology as much as anything else. So it's a very customer focused platform.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then we talked a little bit, we picked up on it, but one of the questions that got raised a lot from everybody here in the group was pricing. Do you get to control your pricing, or is Amazon taking control of that? And does it affect your pricing with other retailers that you're working with?
Well, first and foremost, you can't price fix in that sense on Amazon. That's not what it's about. It is about obviously offering the customer the opportunity to take advantage of different prices. But the sales price alone won't necessarily drive a product's popularity. But certainly in the seller context, you selling your product to the consumer can set your price. With the Amazon vendor relationship, that can often be discounted. But you certainly in the seller are in the driving seat to set your price. Obviously, as distribution downlines become ever more established, you will probably obviously find other sellers on the marketplace also selling your products. But in addition to just coming back to the question about how you can safeguard your brand, the beauty products are a sort of gated category, in the sense that if you are on there wanting to sell beauty products, you do now have to demonstrate to Amazon that you have supply of authentic product. I think you have to supply, say, for example, 3 invoices from a supplier that's recognized as selling, brand X. And in doing so, Amazon can then sort of say, yes, you're allowed to sell the product on the platform too. That also helps to just reinforce making sure that products aren't counterfeit or fake as well. And if you're the brand holder, then you can demonstrate that you yourself are the brand holder, irrespective of whether or not you've got the trademark established at that point. So that all helps.
And that's very important if you've gone through the trials, troubles and investments with regards to regulatory and compliance, not just in this country, but also for export markets that you might be interested in, for example, across Europe, which counterfeit products and brands will not have done.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important, that Amazon are working very hard to protect. Do you have my Facebook Live on in the background?
Don't think so. No.
Or is it coming off of me? Because let me do that, because I can hear my voice coming back to me, which is pretty hideous.
Oh, really?
It's gone away. I think.
Okay.
So no, that's really important, because that's very. The counterfeit thing is another worry that people have, of people getting hold of your product. So they are protecting against that, and it's part of their policy now within beauty. So I've got a few questions.
We can help with that too, if people are. We can help with that too if people are interested, because we have a regulatory team as well as Amazon technical people. So if anybody's worried about regulatory or compliance, Abby's the first person to come to, and she can, help at whatever stage of the brand development that you're at.
Oh, that's brilliant, and we're going to come back to that in a second, actually. So one of the other things that came up as being a big concern for indie brands is that, and I think this comes down to, again, an assumption that when you work with Amazon, you have to do everything with Amazon. So there's a big fear from indie brands about the environmental side of things. And we all know what happens when we order from Amazon. I ordered 2 books on Sunday, one on Saturday, one came yesterday, one came today, both in cardboard packaging. Both have done a trip. Why didn't they put those 2 things together? And with the growth of the sort of the eco side of beauty, and across many different industries, I know brands are slightly worried about the environmental impact of working with Amazon. So do they have options when it comes to logistics?
Yeah, absolutely. They have the Fulfillment by Amazon program. So that is when you can ship product to an Amazon warehouse, and then from that, they can then dispatch to your customer when you're selling in the seller capacity. And that's incredibly helpful because that process will help to contribute towards your overall performance on the platform. And in addition, Fulfillment by Amazon can also be used to fulfill products to your own e-commerce customers. So if you have your own brand website, you can have your products dispatched from an Amazon warehouse to your customer. They won't know it's come from Amazon, but because of the sheer scale that Amazon works at, particularly here in the UK, the storage fees are hugely competitive, and the products are sent out at a hugely competitive rate that's sort of billed on a per product basis. But to come back to the 2 different parcels arriving at separate times, that's because they have around I think it's up to maybe 14 distribution centres in the UK now. So clearly, if you're only sending your product to Fulfillment by Amazon to one warehouse, other products will be stored in other warehouses. So that's why they can't put all items together in one box, because simply not all warehouses will have all the products. I do understand that there are issues with packaging. Hopefully that's something that Amazon will be working on in time, that packaging isn't ridiculously outsized compared to what's within. It could just be that that's what they had in stock that day. So there's various aspects in which you can work with Amazon. If you decide not to use Fulfillment by Amazon, you don't have to. If you've got good logistics already set up to deal with direct to consumer purchases, then that's great. But you do need to keep on top of issues like returns, damage in transit, all those sorts of things, because that is what the customers can then talk about and use to review your product, and it all contributes to the algorithm. So whatever you decide to do, it's really important, obviously, to make sure that the right product gets to the right customer at the right time. That's what the whole logistics bit is all about, because obviously without that, it's just not going to work. So you can use Fulfillment by Amazon to fulfill your seller orders. You can use Fulfillment by Amazon to just fulfill your own e-commerce orders, or otherwise you can have your own e-commerce system set up to fulfill the Amazon orders. So there's plenty of options there, I would hope.
Yeah, so you can keep control of your logistics if the environmental thing was really, really important. That means you get control of your packaging and that experience completely as well. But you have to react fast to all the queries that come up, because if you don't, really that's when you get sort of a negative effect on your algorithm. So you've got to be confident about your own logistics if you're going to run your own logistics.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. It's really important.
Great. I mean, one of the things that you raised, which is really relevant actually when it comes to the environmental impact of Amazon as well. They have deliberately made the choice to have multiple distribution centers, because what they're trying to do is reduce the journey between the order and the customer. So from an environmental point of view, that is what they're thinking about in that time. It's all about increasing the speed, making things arrive in unbelievable time, but it does reduce the impact of those longer journeys by having these distribution centers in lots of different places, essentially. So there is something there. I mean, everybody's got to work on this. If you're working with a logistics company or a 3PL, everybody's trying to look at how they can be more environmentally friendly. So it's finding that best option for you, but you can control that to a certain extent when you're with them, which is cool. So I've seen a few questions coming in and I'm trying to do different things. I can see, Angela, you just turned up. I can see that somebody said it was a great topic and thank you very much, but I can't see your name. So when you put your comments in, pop your names in, will you? And that would be incredible. What would also be awesome, guys, while I'm asking the last few questions, is if any of you currently on the call are already trading through Amazon and you are working with Amazon, it would be lovely to see your feedback. I know I can see Precious is there, and I think she's saying that she's working on there, but I'd love to give me some. Tell me whether it's a positive or a negative experience, whether it was worth it, Precious, and anybody else that's on here, because we've got quite a lot now. We're up at the 20 at the moment, so that's really, really good. It would be great to hear that. So, okay, let's get down to the nitty-gritty bit then. You said earlier, Gillian, and I've heard so many brands say this, that it is a bit of a nightmare to find your way through it. I've heard calls of people being stuck on helplines for ages and not being able to actually speak to anybody, not understanding what's happening. So how difficult really is it to set it up? And perhaps you could tell us what your Amazon for fuel for Amazon even, let me get it the right way around, sort of service is, and how you help brands through this if it's something that they were to choose to do.
Okay. So our business splits into three parts. First of all, we started life as a PR and a marketing PR consultancy, and we work for national and international brands that want to accelerate their commercial success. That's what everybody wants. Then we started doing regulatory and compliance about 5 or 6 years ago, and so we got involved in the whole sort of Amazon environment in terms of, you know, how brands use compliance positively to make their brand assets stronger, more valuable in all kinds of different ways. And then we set up our Amazon practice about 1.5 years ago because so many people said we find Amazon impossible. And it really doesn't matter. You could be a 2-man strong organization or perhaps a much larger organization with maybe 1,000 people or 20,000 people. Everybody finds the Amazon experience completely almost impossible for so many of the reasons that you've outlined here. So our objective is to work with our clients, our brands, to help them increase their commercial profiling, their reputation, their positioning, but fundamentally to use Amazon as a successful sales channel, okay? And so there are 2 or 3 things that you can do, which are very simply, you can get it set up in the right way so that it works for you. It makes your brand experience, irrespective of whether you've got 1 SKU or perhaps 200 SKUs, come to life in a meaningful way for your consumers. We can help you manage it on an ongoing basis, which means that you can concentrate on your job and we can deal with the pitfalls, the time-consuming nature of dealing with Amazon every day. And the third part is how you promote your brand, both on Amazon and externally using social media or other techniques like PR, so that you focus on things like keywords and give consumers clearer signs so that the call to action on Amazon becomes much more powerful, much more meaningful, and drives a better success for you as a brand owner.
Oh, okay. I'm busy, as you can see. You can see how you caught me out there. I'm posting your links at the moment in the Facebook.
Oh, fantastic. There's a free download. Have to say, if you do sign up for it, it might go into the junk email. So do check the junk email when you get the links through for our free download.
Yes, I'm going to tell people. I was multitasking then. You finished quicker than I expected. So, I mean, there are. I'm going to come in and have a look, because what we've done is the guys over here, Gillian and Abby, have prepared a free download for you all, which has got all the frequently asked questions and responses, all to do about these issues around Amazon. So if we haven't managed to nail everything by the end of this broadcast, you've got this thing to go and download it. So I'd highly recommend you go and do that, because these guys are the experts. I am posting the links into the Facebook feed as we speak. I'm also going to post the link just directly to their Amazon for Fuel website, so that you can just have a look in a little bit more detail about the service.
It's actually got quite a lot of information on there, and it's got quite a lot of sort of stats, figures. So it's a reasonably good first port of call, we think.
Oh, brilliant. No, that's awesome. Well, I've had a look, and it's great, because I'm in exactly the same position as most of the brands that I work with. I can do logistics, but I can't do all this side of it. So this has all been new to me, and I'm quite fascinated about it and the potential that it holds. And we've got some questions, some feedback coming in here. So I'm assuming this is from Precious, because I asked her to do it. So I can see a response. So Precious, if this is you, thank you. Saying it hasn't been easy being on Amazon. It was easier. I think she's saying it was easier before our products were in a glass bottle. She's repeatedly requested Amazon to pack the product more carefully. It didn't happen, and it looks like we've had quite a lot of problems with damages. And what she's done is she's come away from Amazon Logistics, and she's brought her logistics back to herself while she sorts out packaging issues. She's also had a little experience of inventory being lost by the Amazon warehouse, and she had to fight a little bit to get some compensation. So there's some feedback from somebody who's actually doing it. I had a few bits of feedback from some other guys, and I know that Simon won't mind me mentioning this. Simon is the MD, I think, for a company called Be Good, and they've been trading on Amazon for a long time, and he is absolutely and positively bursting with joy about it. He sees no reason for brands not to be on there, and he's seen it's, as far as their brand's concerned, it's grown them massively. It's reached an audience they never thought that they wanted to reach. And they've seen no negative side to that when it comes to dealing with other bigger retailers, because that's something which pops up quite often, that people are scared that bigger retailers are going to look down and say, oh, you're on Amazon. But I know Be Good are stocked in Waitrose. I know they're on QVC, so they're on some really big platforms, as well as the biggest, which is Amazon, obviously, and they're not finding any negative information there. I have got another brand who wouldn't mind either, Myru, who have said something a bit opposite that. They're always asked by retailers whether they're on Amazon, and she feels that's because, she's made to feel that's because it would be a negative feeling. So I don't know whether you've got anything that you want to add to
We've
that.
got a recent case study. It's quite interesting. It's quite a small brand. I can't name it for obvious reasons, but you're welcome to ring us up and talk to us about us offline. We've worked with them for about 3 or 4 years, and we have recently transformed their Amazon experience in terms of the initial, what I would call, design and look of the brand on Amazon, to give them their own storefront, to maximize all the brand information, sort out all the architecture. And since the beginning of this year, they've had what they call a number of record days, and June has become a record month year on year, and sales have grown year on year. I think it's 150%.
Yeah.
I mean, 150% for actually what has been quite a small, discrete, one-off investment, followed by some ongoing account management work. But actually, being on Amazon is not a very expensive exercise when you look at what you're going to get long term.
No, that's a good point. And actually, that was another one of the questions. Sorry, I'm posting on. I'm trying to do two things at once. That was another one of the questions that's come in actually from Lucia, just saying, can you give any indication of how much it costs, what the fees are for an Amazon store for the people who don't know anything here at all about it?
Well, what we can do is tell you that getting some initial work set up per brand, per SKU is under £1,000. It's about 850. But
And
that is then yours as the owner. You then have that forevermore.
Yes. Okay. And for how many SKUs was that, Gillian? Sorry.
Well, it depends, because it depends how people manage their brands and their portfolio and all the rest of it. But I have been quite surprised over the last 4 to 5, maybe 10 months at working out how reasonable it is to get up and running. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Amazon, as you've alluded to. So lots of people say endless problems, lots of frustrations, perceptions about cost, all the rest of it. In fact, it's nothing like as difficult or as expensive to transform and take control of your brand experience on Amazon, and then to benefit from the sales that are going to be coming through upstream for the rest of your brand's life, actually.
And how do Amazon charge you for having a store?
Well, if you're a seller, you just pay a £25 a month subscription fee. And then for every product that you sell, for the beauty category, they take a 15% referral fee on the total sales price, which will include the cost of what the product sells for, plus postage and packing, plus anything extra, like, for example, gift wrapping. So that total sum, Amazon will apply a 15% referral fee to. And that's it. So it's £25 a month to get your account up and running. That's, can be set up in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
And then you get your income from sales. I think it's every couple of weeks. So within, a few weeks, you can start seeing the income coming through, less the referral fee and any odd, problem that might go on if you're using fulfillment by Amazon, for example. So if there are problems in dispatch or whatever, fees will then be applied at that point. But, you've got the income coming through really quite quickly. That's different to the vendor account when you sell to Amazon Direct, in which case you'll be invoiced and paid, I think it's end of the month plus 60 days. Don't quote me on that. It might be longer, possibly shorter, but that takes a little longer to come through.
And that's really interesting, that point you've raised, because when you work with most retailers, everything is paid on their terms, which can be 60, 90 days.
Or 120.
Yeah, or 120. And that's a big ask for when you're working with retailers, because you have to send in an awful lot of stock to them. You're not fulfilling individual orders if you're working with bigger retailers. You're fulfilling a big order that goes out to their stores. So it's a lot of front end for you and a long time to wait. So, and that's the same with the vendor. But if you're a seller on Amazon, you're seeing money fairly fast.
Yeah.
And you're not ever and if you're putting stock with them and they're just releasing that. So that's really, really interesting. And so it's £25 a month, and then they take £15 off.
No, 15%. Yeah.
Everything that you make.
Yeah.
But they do all that paperwork. They take it at source, so you don't even have to worry about that. It just comes into your account. You just need to check it.
There are also other things that you can do to bump it up, of course, okay? But that comes as part of what I would call the ongoing account management. So, for example, increasing the advertising around your brand, okay, or showcasing it, or working out how you're going to mirror your marketing strategy, or how you're going to cascade what's on Amazon into different sorts of other media channels, for example. So, there's no shortage of ways that, for you to accelerate demonstrating what your brand can do to your target consumer. So don't worry about not spending money, because there are other options, if you want to spend the money.
Yes. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. So I'm just managing these questions. So yeah, so guys, I'm going to repeat it again. It's 20 when you're working with Amazon, it's £25 per month.
Yep.
And then they take 15% of your total sales.
Yep.
But to get there, you've got to have set various things up to start with. Okay.
Yes.
So they are one-off costs. And then you also have to remember that you need it to be managed. Now, most people find managing your account very, very laborious. I mean, about 10 days ago, our technical people spent something like 4 days arguing with Amazon over the 36 or 37 or 38 characters that were allowed per SKU, whatever it was. And at the end of it, Amazon issued some sort of apology saying we were right and they were wrong, right? But it can drive you to dementia.
Yes. Yes, no, I would totally get that. I would totally get that. So, Lucia, I hope that explains it. And then if you wanted to work with somebody, if you wanted to work with these guys, Abby and Gillian, you need to speak to them. It will depend on the size of your range and and all those details as to how much you would be looking to get it all up and established yourself.
And also, you can do it on a stage basis. You know, you might put 1 or 2 hero products up. You know, I mean, you need a strategy for Amazon. It's like every other channel. You can't just go, hi, we're here, blub, right?
Yeah.
You know, you need to think creatively about what is the opportunity and how are you going to manage it? How can you support it? You know, how does it work with other things? But Amazon is the first port of call for most people, and therefore it is critically important to get it right.
That's really good. And actually, I mean, I'm still managing questions here. But one thing that is really interesting is, I guess there's the argument that you have your own website. You can sell through your own website to the whole world, and you can sell on Amazon. And so why is Amazon providing more opportunities?
Well, it gets more traffic. Ultimately, it's got more eyeballs, more people passing through than your website might have initially. So people know of Amazon. They're going to Amazon to do a product search. They're there because they want to buy. So whether they're looking for your particular brand or they're just simply looking, for example, for a moisturizer, it can be your brand that pops up in the search results. So that's what's key to it, because it's, you know, our habits are changing. We're no longer searching online through a search engine to find products, then going to a shopping site. We go to Amazon first, we do the product search, and if we find it, we'll buy it. We don't have to go anywhere else. And so your investment around optimizing your product pages, getting your keywords right, doing a fair amount of advertising within the platform, that is key to getting your rankings going, which then, you know, feed into your sales, and, you know, that's how it just simply works. And these all play a big part. But it's just, I mean, it is the fastest growing retailer on the planet. And, you know, it's going to be more well known in terms of, you know, the top 10 websites we all visit on a daily basis. Amazon's going to be one of them. Your brand website, however, might not be, because they don't know of you yet. So that's why it's important. And in addition, I mean, you just have to sort of also think about, you know, the sheer technology around Amazon. Once upon a time, we were on dial-up connections, buying products, you know, in that way on a very, you know, simple internet medium. These days, we're on phones, we're on tablets. We've got Alexa sitting in our front rooms or in our kitchens. So if you're talking to Alexa one evening and you say, oh, I fancied buying some of brand X moisturizer, whatever it is, well, it can be bought without you even looking at a screen, pressing any buttons. But if your brand isn't there, then Alexa can't buy it for you. So, you know, I think you just have to sort of think of the bigger picture about where things are going, how we're interacting with technology, and how Amazon kind of is at the forefront of that. I know it's obviously really shaking up bricks and mortar and other e-commerce platforms, but, you know, you do have to sort of think ahead about how people are going to buy into their brand, the type of technology they're using, they're looking at phones, they're looking at tablets, they're looking at mobile devices, and it's just really important.
I think that's.
And the delivery is so important because people get it within 24 hours, delivered to their desk on Amazon Prime. So it is a wonderful experience for most people. Yep.
Yeah, no, I can see that, because one of the questions that we got right back at the beginning, which I didn't mention at the time, and but we're there now, is that we've talked a lot this evening about the fact that Amazon is becoming a dominating one of the biggest shopping channels, shopping places in the world, and the question was raised, well, surely that's just in the US, and it is. I mean, it is very big in the US, but we call it, certainly in logistics, whenever I go to any conference whatsoever, it's called the Amazon effect, and it's talked about everywhere. And everybody's job, whatever brand they're doing, is to work out how they're going to deal with the Amazon effect. And the thing is with Amazon is it's an innovative platform that has an incredible amount of money, and they will innovate, and they will keep throwing ideas out there because they can afford to. If it doesn't work, they ditch it and they move on to the next idea. So slowly and surely, just because they are big enough and they have enough money, they will find out exactly what works, and they will always develop something. The AI technology that's coming in with Alexa, for instance, blows your mind. But yeah, Alexa, you could ask Alexa for vegan skincare, and your name could be coming out of it if you're on there. So there is potential. I don't think it suits every brand, and it may not suit every brand, but I think the force and the potential of Amazon can't be denied anywhere now, other than potentially in China. But they have Alibaba over that side, and there's the battle between Alibaba and Amazon can continue. So I do think it's worth it. There is real potential. I have another question. I hope you understand this, because I've got no idea. I think this has come from Precious as well. Can you guys explain PPC and advertising? Because I don't think you can stand out without it in the beginning.
It's a pay-per-click. So it's the amount of money you will spend on a keyword, for example, in order to win the click, as it were, when someone's searching for a product and they've used your keyword. And if they click on the link and on your link and that you've paid for, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for the click that will take the customer through that keyword to your product page. It's in terms of advertising on Amazon, it's incredibly important to do it when you're certainly starting out in particular, because the advertising will help to get your product known on the platform, simply because when you do a product search, clearly on the first page up will prop loads of products. It's from that first page that around 70% of sales are made, and ultimately you as the brand preferably want to be sat on the top tier, which is the choice of the first 3 products. But you can't get there magically overnight. You have to put the effort and the hard work in, which is through the services that we provide, optimizing the keywords around your products, deciding on which ones you're going to bid for and why, how much and for how long. This is something that you can set a budget for on either a daily or a weekly basis in order to win the clicks when people are searching on those search words, to drive traffic to your product pages, and that people will then buy your products. So that's in essence what it's sort of all about. It's something that we can help you manage, but you need to set up your presence on the platform first and optimize that before you do the advertising bit. There's no point spending money on the advertising if your optimization and keywords haven't been done properly. That's what our team work on for you.
Go on. Sorry, you finish off.
Yeah, just to say that when starting out, people say, well, how much should I spend? Sometimes it can almost be up to the cost of the item that you're actually promoting, so the full SRP. But what we can recommend is, doing sort of particular strategies around the advertising, when you do it, how long you do it for. But it is the sort of the second part to being on Amazon, to make sure that you're sort of doing that activity, because other brands will be doing that activity too. And just to come back to the point about, whether or not being on Amazon is a good or bad thing, in the greater scheme of things, I think what's important as a brand is to recognize that if you don't put your brand on there, somebody else will, and they won't necessarily do it to the best of the ability. So that's the most important thing for you as a brand, that your brand, when it is on there, is seen in the best possible light, in the same way as you'd want it in the nicest shop, a really nice department store or a major other e-commerce retailer. Whenever your product is seen, it looks good, because, in a way, you've only got the, first time to make a good impression. So if you're seen on Amazon, you need to be making that good impression, because lots of people could potentially see you. And I think, for whatever reasons you might not want to consider the Amazon conversation right now, you do want to address it. It's a huge platform for your brand, and it will reflect a lot about your brand. So if you're not doing it well, you need to hope somebody else might be.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. But it's quite interesting. I've got that reverb again. Sorry, guys, if you're getting it. But there are ways that indie brands can get on that first page. It's a strategy that you need to work on. You can't just go on Amazon and be on their first page. No. There is a strategy, there is a skill, there is a technique behind it. And if you make the decision to be on Amazon, you have to understand that there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that you can fight your way through and try and understand, or you can buy, you can go and get the expertise who will do that for you. But just because you're indie doesn't mean, and small, doesn't mean you can't get noticed on Amazon.
Well, far from it. Actually, far from it. Often, because indie brands have got much more personality, many more kind of authentic stories to tell, that actually gives you greater options with regards to the keywords. So in a funny way, although Amazon is very big and indie brands tend to be thought of as very small, funnily enough, their tapestry of marketing and communications and brand assets is probably much richer than many other bigger brands, which for various reasons, some to do with regulatory or compliance, some to do with scientific or clinical kind of sort of evidence related things, have got far fewer opportunities to bring those stories to life and to ride on the back of lots of different sorts of keywords that will help get you to that number one page and the top slots, which is what everybody wants.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So I've got a few more questions, because we started a bit late. I'm going to run over just a tiny little bit to get these through. Precious, if you're still there, I don't think I've seen anybody drop out. So you girls are over there. You are rocking it, you two. I've got a full house here. It's brilliant. Precious, if you are still there, Steph wants to know, just give us some feedback on whether you feel as an indie brand, whether being on Amazon has been worth it as far as your sales are concerned. You don't need to give us any facts or figures, but is it a platform that you think has been worth it from that point of view? Then we've got questions. Is the cost or margin at Amazon comparable to high street retailers?
That's a very good question. That is a really good question.
Certainly within the vendor relationship, I would say it's most definitely comparable, because that's when obviously that you will be paying, Amazon will be taking their retail margin. So I would say of a recent beauty brand that I worked with, you were looking at around 40%, but it may well be more. And clearly, if the product becomes really hot and sells really well, they'll probably take an even bigger one. So it can be a bit of a sliding scale, but it's certainly comparable. But if you're obviously in the reseller, you're not actually paying them that margin. So you take the full SRP margin for yourself. All you're paying for in the seller context is simply your £25 subscription fee plus 15% on the total value of the sale.
Although, of course, you probably then want to do some other things yourself creatively, you know. So.
Yeah. So that's that big difference again between the vendor and the seller relationship that you have. So Angela, hopefully that's answered your question. She then said is it cheaper than eBay? But it sounds like it possibly is if you're in that seller kind of thing. Can you just, I'm just going through this. Yep. Okay. It's plus VAT, I'm assuming.
The £25 fee, pretty sure it's so in the small print. Yeah,
and also I guess the 15%. Nicola, oh hi Nicola, I didn't know you were in here, but she said it's Nicola looks like she may be in the process of trying to do something on Amazon. It's taken me nearly 3 weeks to get brand registry. Support just don't talk to each other. What a nightmare.
Well, that's why you come to people like us, because it's much easier. To be honest, we are really good at understanding how to make all this work. Your job should be about focusing on building your business. All of this is just admin hurdles, admin, and you're much better off paying a reasonably small amount of money to people like us who've got technical people like Abby and our technical staff, Julian, to actually take that headache away for you and make it come back as an opportunity.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to have some help from experts. What is the brand registry?
Well, it's just Amazon's way of sort of saying we're here to look after your brand. So through the Amazon website, you can Google it. It's just literally brand registry. You go there, and if you've got an active registered trademark registered either here or in other places around the world, you can notify Amazon of that so that they identify you as the trademark holder. Doing so, it affords you some protection with the brand, that any ASIN that you then go on to establish is yours. So even if other people crop up on the platform and can demonstrate that they're selling your authentic product, they still have to use your ASIN product pages. So that's why it's really important. It's also a way of Amazon verifying what could otherwise be counterfeit or fake, because that is a big problem for them. They can't be seen to be obviously selling those sorts of things, and the brand registry also enables them to sort of see where products are that you say we can't sort of validate or and say that they're authentic.
That is brilliant. Precious has come back, guys. Precious, thank you so much for being here and giving your feedback as an actual seller. So Precious has said that as far as sales, she thinks it has been worth it. It took a little bit of a hit when she converted to fulfilling things herself, which is what you guys were saying. You've got to be really careful there, that you might see things go down in the algorithm. But she's getting it back on track again now. Right, hold on. I think there's just the last couple of things. Right, I think I saw a question here. No, I can't see any more. But if anybody has got a quick question, just stick it in there while I'm finishing things up. So I'm watching those, but just so that you can remind you guys, I have posted 2 links in the comments. One of them is to an incredible free download that Abby and Gillian have pulled together for us. You can just go on, pop your email address in and your name and download that. It's full of all the FAQs, some of which we've talked about, some which we probably haven't. It will be packed with their knowledge and their advice, which is cool. If you sign up for that and you don't get it, go and check your spam folder. We know what happens nowadays with emails. So do go and check your spam folder if you sign up and you don't get it. I've also put a link there so that you can go and just look at their general page about how they work with brands to help grow your position on Amazon. So I'm hoping feedback, ladies, please. Let's see how we're feeling out there. We've got a comment here, and I can't see who's done it, so I'm going to try and find a name. Angela, thank you very much. Great webinar. So Lucia's just come in with, so this is for Indie Beauty in the UK. It can be started now. We haven't got the Indie Beauty shop yet, Lucia, but you can start selling on Amazon as a platform. And we hope, fingers crossed, that we will get the same shop that the US now have access to. Oh, there is one more question come in. It looks like somebody, I guess it might be Nicola, who has managed to get into her brand registry, and she's registered, and she's saying, should she stop letting other people sell her products now she's in that registry?
I don't know whether you can necessarily stop in that sense, but I mean, if you want to find out some more information about it, then get in touch with us, because it rather depends on whether or not they are selling authentic product or not. So there's a sort of greater conversation to be had.
Yeah, definitely. You know where these guys are. Precious, thank you, ladies, loving it. Steph Kelby, fab, thank you. Zafrin, great, thanks. Lucia, we don't have any timings on this Indie Beauty shop. It looks like Indie Beauty Expo and Amazon have some serious links, and they certainly announced the launch of the Indie Beauty shop at the last Indie Beauty Expo in Dallas. So potentially we have London coming up in October. We have Berlin coming up in whenever, March, February next year. So maybe they might do an announcement with that. It could come sooner. It may be later. We have absolutely no idea. But we can get in ahead of the game, and we can certainly get ourselves out there. If you think that Amazon is a platform that can be added to your strategy. And I think one of the points you raised earlier, ladies, was that it may not be a conversation you want right now, but it may not be something that you want to completely and utterly rule out going forward. There may be a time and a place for it. But just understanding its importance and the way it's going is really good. It's really good. Right, I'm doing one last question, guys. One last one. Is there any specific criteria for getting your brand onto Amazon? So for any guys out there who are thinking about it, do they have certain boxes that they need to tick?
Well, you can sell lots of different things. With regard to beauty, as I said, it's it's a category where you do actually have to demonstrate that you are either A, the manufacturer, or B, having goods supplied by the manufacturer or an approved supplier. Because it's just simply important for Amazon to know that they're selling authentic goods, whether it's through the seller relationship or clearly with the vendor relationship. They're obviously going to establish it with the brands directly, but certainly through the seller relationship, yes, you do have to jump through a few hoops just to demonstrate who you are and what you're selling. But after that, the world's your oyster, so to speak.
Brilliant. So nothing that we can't do, nothing that's going to make us have to go and do loads of work. We just have to prove really that we're who we are.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So Lucia's coming in with, thank you so much, ladies, for all the information. I've really enjoyed it, and we'll see what happens. Hiya, Lise, has come on and said, thank you for sharing the information. So that, Jane from Nom Nom, lovely to see you. Thanks. Useful to find out more. Jacqueline, thank you. Very useful to know how we can move forwards as a brand. So that is absolutely brilliant. Don't forget that there are the 2 links in the feed here, guys. So go grab your FAQ freebie download right now as soon as we hang up. Hang up? Is that a term I can use on Facebook? I'm not sure, but you know what I mean. And then go and check out the website. The girls over, Gillian and Abby would love to hear from you following this, and see whether they can help you in any way there. So do get in contact with them. Do go get your download. Do go check out their website. Oh, it's very hot today.
Thank you so much. Thank you
so much to you too, to all of you out there. Loads of indie hugs and love as always. We'll see you all again really soon. Bye.